What's up, everyone? This is time to wrestle with Suplexis. I'm Suplexis, and today I am presenting the Time to Wrestle with Suplexis Olympics, or for short, TTRWS Olympics. And basically, my idea for this, I came up with it last night. And seeing as we're in the Olympic season, I was thinking for the past 3 years, I am gonna do the Olympics for wrestling, and I'm not doing 4 years because the Tokyo Olympics are in 2021. So I'm doing an Olympics game for the past 3 years, and there will be 6 categories that I'll do the Olympics for. But before we get into that, let's lay down some ground rules. So, the first rule is one wrestler can't appear more than one time in a category. So, for example, like if we're doing Choker of the Year, Drew McIntyre can't appear all 3 years. I would have that if he could, but sadly, we can't do that. And the second thing, it's not too much of a rule. It's more of the time frames. So because the Olympics for Tokyo ended in August of 2021, the first year one, is going to be from August of 2021 to August of 2022, or SummerSlam of 2021 to SummerSlam 2022, and then the next one, SummerSlam 2022 to 2023, and then the next one, SummerSlam 2023 to the present day. So there will be 3 years. So without further ado, let's get in the first category and I'll explain it a bit more. So like I said, the years go from SummerSlam to SummerSlam. So year one will be in the top right corner, year two will be in the top left or the bottom left corner, and year three will be in the bottom right corner. So the first category we're getting into is the best men's match of the year. And for August of 2021 to August of 2022, or SummerSlam to SummerSlam, and I'll be referring to that as year one from now on. We have Hangman Page fighting Kenny Omega at Full Gear 2021. So let's go over some other matches that could have made it into this category. The first match that comes to mind is MJF versus CM Punk at Revolution of 2022. Some other matches that people may include for this category could consist of Roman and Seth Rollins at the Rumble. I didn't include that because of the DQ finish that kind of tainted the match for me. So there are many other matches that could have been included, but I think this was the best one for that time frame. And then from for year two, SummerSlam 2022 to 2023, I picked Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn. That is the match for me. Other ones you could have included would be a Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, the Intercontinental Championship Triple Threat match that year at WrestleMania, MJF versus Bryan Danielson in the Iron Man match at Revolution. But for this list, I have to go through all these amazing wrestling matches and pick one that stands out. This one does the most. And then for year three, I chose Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay as the match for that year. Other matches that could have been picked are Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. In my opinion, that belongs there. You could have done Gunther versus Sami Zayn. You could have done Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita. You could have done a number of different matches, perhaps a Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre match, but that's what I picked here. So let's do the medals. Let's give out the medals. So in third place, I had to give it to Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay. Did this match get 6.5 stars? Yes. And this match for me, it beats out Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns this year by a tiny little bit. So that is a big rub for that match, I believe. But to me, the one thing this match was lacking was a story and the result mattering. If you look at these other two matches, the result really mattered. Both of them were for world championships. Both of them involved long-term storylines that culminated in big world title matches. That's what it comes down to. Don't get me wrong, this one had the best in-ring wrestling. Potentially, you could say that it had the best in-ring wrestling for the past 3 years. You could make a valid argument for that. But it lacked in story, it lacked in emotion, and it lacked in the stakes of who was going to win the match and what they'd get out of it. So that is why it's number 3. Number 2 for me is Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega. And simply for this one, the story was verging on the end of running its course. And another thing going against this match was Kenny Omega being injured in the match. Like, for example, I picked this match because of the storyline, but the Danielson one Kenny had was probably the better in ring match. So, due to the injuries, due to the story running for a long time at this point, because nothing crazy happened from about September to November. No shocking developments until the Young Bucks got involved in this match happened. So that goes against it for a little bit. But number one, this was going to be tough to beat for what I think is the best match, because I think this is the best match of all time. Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. You have the storyline, you have the in-ring work, you have the atmosphere, you have everything. And yes, this match was predictable as we were on the verge of WrestleMania, where Roman would battle Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed Championship. But the fact that this took place before Mania, the fact that it was so obvious, but they made you believe on this night, like Michael Cole said, it's not probable, but it's possible. Everything about this match I love. It is a perfect wrestling match. It is my gold medal for this category. And now it's time for the next one. The next one is the best women's match of the 3 years. So for year one, I have Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair. That was a pretty good match to me, and there isn't too much competition, in my opinion, for this. So, because the category ends at SummerSlam, I could include the rematch in the discussion. I do think this Mania one is better, but that's out in the discussion. Rhea or Charlotte and Ronda in the I Quit match was fun, but and the Crown Jewel three-way with Becky, Sasha, and Bianca was good, but nothing else this year was amazing for women's title matches. I mean, you also did have actually one match. There's another one. It is Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker in the steel cage match on St. Patrick's Day, or St. Patrick's Day Smash, I believe it's called. That is the second place slot. Those two matches are neck and neck for the best match, but Bianca and Becky beats it out to me because of the long running story that consistently had the crowd interested. The Britt Baker Thunder Rosa one, they fought in 2021, and then they didn't fight until Revolution 2022. So, unfortunately, because of the long break, the intrigue kinda dipped down. And the Revolution match wasn't the best, so that kind of brought it down. But then the cage match was really good. But this one was consistently exciting, going in and out of the match. Pure excitement. Now, Rhea and Charlotte, I find from SummerSlam 2022 to 2023 SummerSlam, the no women's match that year was like an instant classic to me. Like Bianca Belair and Bailey, they put on a good ladder match at Extreme Rules. I remember that one. Becky and Bianca at SummerSlam, they put on a pretty solid match, but it wasn't close to WrestleMania's quality. So I think this case, I gotta go what's objectively the best match. And it's Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. And then from SummerSlam 2023 to SummerSlam 2024, we have Bailey versus Io Sky. This one, to me, the competition for this, Becky and Rhea, it didn't hit to the levels that I wanted it to. It didn't quite hit those levels. I really enjoyed the women's War Games match last year, so that's up there for me. And then on the AEW side of things, Tony Storm, it was mostly character work and less in-ring wrestling, so nothing crazy out of that. However, for the TBS title, I think Willow Nightingale and Mercedes Moné at Double or Nothing was the best AEW women's match for year 3. But I ended up going with Bailey and Io Sky. Similar to Becky Lynch and Bianca, the story was just consistent, getting more heated as we approached Mania. About a couple weeks before Mania, there was a bit of a lull period where we were waiting for Mania, but that's like a tiny nitpick. This is probably one of, if not the best women's story told, in my opinion. That is a hot take, but it is potentially one of the best, same with Becky and Bianca. But we gotta give the medals out. So let's do that. Number 3 for me is Charlotte and Rhea. Like I said, it's objectively the best women's match based on wrestling alone, but nothing else was exciting about this match. It didn't pull me in like crazy and immerse me completely, so I give it 3. I know people love this match, but it just didn't hit for me. And number 2, I give it to Bianca and Becky Lynch. They put on a classic in that ring. But Bianca winning was amazing. But she already had her WrestleMania moment. For me, Bailey and Io Sky, that beats it out a bit because seeing Bailey following her career from 2015 to in Brooklyn to this year, it was such a feel good moment to see her, the final horsewoman, finally get her moment And unlike Bianca, this was the first time she won a title in a big match at WrestleMania, in a big match in general. And the in-ring psychology in this match, both people knew each other so well. Both matches had that out. But I think Bailey winning being a more feel-good ending, that wins for me. That's the best women's match of the past 3 years. So, the best double cross is the next category. And for year one, there aren't too many double crosses I was able to think of. Like, but no turns really happened aside from the Judgment Day. So that's kind of here by default. And then year two, the turns started coming in. They started rolling in. We had Dominic turning on uh, Edge or Adam Copeland now, and Rey Mysterio at Clash at the Castle, both of them actually. And then there aren't any other like super notable turns, but there's some things going around. Like that was the year where MJF slowly started becoming a babyface, but he didn't double cross anyone to do it necessarily. But Roman and Sammy, that is top tier stuff. Utterly top tier, amazing stuff. So that's my one for year two. And year three, I have Mariah May turning on Tony Storm for year three. I know it just happened, but the way they executed that turn, the way it caught me off guard, that was amazing. And you could point to Damage Control stabbing Bailey in the back, but the thing is, that one that was more of a verbal turn because Damage Control were talking smack about Bailey in Japanese, and then she realized they were, and then she picked Io Sky, and we got my favorite women's match of the past 3 years. So that was all verbal. This was a brutal assault. Look at Tony Storm. Like women wrestlers, they don't bleed like that all the time, but they went all out for this. Mariah got the shoe, the same one. Tony was like, watch for the shoe, but she wasn't watching for the shoe. Oh my gosh, this was excellent. So now we gotta rank the turns. Number three, not too surprising perhaps, the Judgment Day turning on Edge and taking him out of the group. That kind of won by default. Like I said, no other big turn really happened. Number two, I have Mariah May turning on Tony Storm. They did everything right in this story. They did everything right. This is a great heel turn that is hopefully setting up for a great match at All In. But I'm sorry, number one, everything about this excellent. My favorite segment. You have Solo, Jimmy, Jay, and Heyman in there, and all of them are doing their jobs. Even Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, the fallen best friend. You have Solo Sikoa. He has no expression on his face. You have Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso, he was acting friendly with Sami Zayn, but at the end, just like it always is with Jimmy Uso, he's doing what the tribal chief tells him to. The tribal chief tells him to welcome Sami in, he's gonna welcome Sami in. Solo does what he wants, as they're saying right now, but Jimmy is blindly loyal to Roman Reigns. That is his thing. Jey Uso, he can't handle this. He can't handle the fact that he couldn't accept Sami. He eventually did, but right when he did that, he ended up turning on Roman Reigns and he leaves. And Paul Heyman, he saw this coming. He's seen betrayals. He's been part of betrayals. So he is just in shock. He realizes Roman's having a traumatic experience. And Roman is. That is his face. It's trauma from Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, the fallen best friend, roses surrounding him, as you could see in that kind of blurry picture as he's knocked out and handcuffed. Sami Zayn being the first one to show a crack in the bloodline. And those cracks, they're getting even bigger and they're still growing to this day. To this day, because of that one incident with Sami Zayn taking the chair to Roman Reigns. All these things, so many things have happened because of that. Jey Uso is on Raw. Jimmy's put on the shelf. Roman might have still been champion if this never happened. If he had Jey Uso on his side, maybe all these legends wouldn't have been able to stop them. And Solo Sikoa, he's challenging for the world title in one of the primary matches for SummerSlam. So many things to come out. So many things coming in. 10 out of 10, that double cross. So, now let's talk about a best reinvention. You could have the moments. You could have the matches. You could have the double crosses. But eventually, you gotta know when it's time to change stuff up. The wrestling crowd, whether it's AEW or WWE, they love wrestlers, but whether it's 1 month, whether it's a decade, in some cases, they're gonna get sick of you eventually and they're gonna want something to change. Let's look at the best ones. For year one, we have the Jericho Appreciation Society, the epitome of sports entertainers. So, other runner ups in this category could be everyone in the Judgment Day except for Edge. And Dominic, because he didn't join yet. And JD McDonagh. Rhea Ripley, she went from another face on the roster, almost at that point, getting to just being another face on the roster, to the the most pushed star in the women's division to this day. Damian Priest went from fighting Sheamus for the US title to walking into SummerSlam as undisputed champ, or the world heavyweight champ right now. And a number of other reinventions happen. And then we have year two, and for this year, the first year that Triple H took over as head of creative, we have Dominic Mysterio turning his back on. Sorry, brain fart. We have Dominic turning his back on Rey Mysterio in that iconic scene at Clash at the Castle. We have MJF slowly going from a face to our scumbag that year. Those are some notable ones. I picked Sami Zayn because it helped his career a lot when he needed it most. The honorary Uso gimmick was there. He was always amazing, but it was always underutilized. Sami Zayn's underutilized. So that's why I picked that I think he needed it the most. And then it's not CM Punk, it's Drew McIntyre. Drew's reinvention in year three. And other competitors for this, you could say Damian Priest. After Mania, he quickly became a main eventer. I don't call that a reinvention too much. If you're a Jey Uso fan, I'm not a huge fan of Jey Uso, but you could see him. He has been pretty freaking successful, whether you're a fan of his wrestling or not. You gotta admit it. And those are the main ones, but I picked Drew. So let's rank them. Number 3. I'm sorry, this is Piledriver's favorite wrestler, but it's gotta be Jericho. This was a pretty dang good reinvention. Uh, he went from a normal babyface to just another babyface to leading a faction. The whole point of the JES, if you weren't watching AEW back then, it is essentially Jericho assembles a group of underutilized AEW wrestlers and they call themselves sports entertainers. They invent the AEW galaxy. So Jericho basically assimilates them to be like WWE wrestlers in AEW. It was pretty fun television. And number 2, this may be a shocker. I am picking Sami Zayn. The reason this is not number 1 is because the longevity of this didn't really carry Sami Zayn too much because he won the title. He won the tag titles at Mania. Well, the honorary Uso gimmick itself, it was an amazing reinvention, but it was short-lived. Then he won the tag titles at Mania, and then he beat Roman and Solo at Night Champions, and he hasn't been the same since, simply. He just has been another babyface on the roster. But Drew McIntyre, this is number 1 for me because this gimmick, Sami Zayn's, was short-lived and it slowly went downhill after. Drew is keeping the momentum up by himself. He is keeping it up, and I know I said because the longevity and Drew just turned in November. But by this point, from November to August of last year, Sami Zayn was not the same. Drew is still being the best part of Monday Night Raw, one of, if not the best parts. So I had to go with Drew McIntyre, and I think it's going to get better after this. Going into Bad Blood, when he battles CM Punk in that Hell in a Cell, I hope he wins. Just adding that on top. And now we have the best one-on-one rivalry. And this one, I gotta specify a bit what a one-on-one rivalry is. There's some criteria to this. It has to be a story between two people predominantly. Okay, so the bloodline, throw that out. And there has to be more than one match in this rivalry. It cannot be Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn because it's my favorite match. They only had one one-on-one match, and that's about it. So for year 1, let's get into it. I picked MJF versus CM Punk and other rivalries. You could have said Becky versus Bianca, but because this is like the beginning of one SummerSlam, or the from SummerSlam to the day before SummerSlam, I couldn't pick that because at the time they only had 2 matches. You'll see them in another category coming up though. They only had two matches and wait, three, sorry, three matches. I forgot about one of them because the one I didn't forget about, you can't forget Becky beating Bianca in seconds, and then they had a DQ ending at Extreme Rules, and then they had that banger at WrestleMania 38. So, due to the first two leaving a bad taste in my mouth, I can't pick that one. So I went with Punk MJF. Then Sheamus Gunther. There were no other really multi pay-per-view matches to my knowledge that month. I mean, Jericho and Danielson, they had a good series to me. It was good. It wasn't too much more than good. And then, yeah, Karrion Kross versus Drew. That's not it. Bailey versus Bianca. That's not it. Sheamus Gunther. They put on amazing matches. They had the Clash at the Castle one, and then the SmackDown rematch, and a little sugar on top of that, Mania three-way. And then for year three, I went Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Page. So let's go through the medals. Number three, I think Sheamus versus Gunther. Amazing in-ring matches, but but the rivalry was pretty much their in-ring matches and not much more. And second place, I have MJF versus CM Punk. I put this in second place because the feud, it didn't carry the company forward into the next level. It wasn't able to do that because their feud from November to March was amazing. The Chicago match they had was a classic. The Revolution match, the dog collar one, that is the best CM Punk match I think of all time. The dog collar one with MJF. So that is second place, but because of the longevity, because of how much Swerve was put over at the end of this feud and the heights he's ascended to since, I choose Swerve versus Hangman Page. This was the best story told for AEW, probably the third best story. It, that is that's actually the funny thing to me. As a rivalry, as a one-on-one rivalry with including the matches, I think Swerve and Hangman is best, but as a storyline being told, I slightly prefer MJF and CM Punk. The whole I looked up to you when I was a kid, them going back and forth on the mic, word load, turning on MJF at the end because he realized he was using him. Good stuff. But the thing is, I like rivalries when both people come out of it better. Both people in this came out the rivalry better. CM Punk did not come out that rivalry better. MJF got squashed by Wardlow, and he was arguing with the company. Don't forget that. Before the devil was in September, and this was in March, and he was there for 2 more months. So don't forget that. So I'm going with Swerve MJF because the ramifications coming out. That heck, this is probably the best rivalry in AEW history. Hangman and Swerve. I I just said that. Okay, Kenny Omega and Hangman is second place or the best rivalry. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. This is my order. So for the last one, we got the most shocking match result. Oh boy. This one, You might love it, you might hate it. This might have made you want to turn off your TV. This might have made you want to see a rematch immediately. You... but regardless whether it was a positive feeling, whether it was a negative, whether somewhere in between, this was shocking. All these results. So let's go through them. For year one, we have the result with Becky Lynch beating Bianca Belair at SummerSlam 2021. And what comes close to this immediately comes to mind are Brock Lesnar winning the championship at day one. And funnily enough, Brock Lesnar winning the Elimination Chamber match. So, for other ones for this, if I'm thinking on the spot, you should include to me that I believe this happened. I believe this happened before SummerSlam 2022. I apologize if it didn't. It was on a Dynamite episode. Moxley squashing CM Punk for the championship. That was the shocker. That was one shocker. And then we also have Jamie Hayter lost it at Double or Nothing 2023. That'll be for 2023. Okay. Also, so that's the predominant one off the top of my head right now. That's what I could think of. And then year two, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Oh man, I close a second placer for this. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle. That is definitely second place for this. For me personally, Asuka failing to beat Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 39 did surprise me. Gunther retaining his championship did surprise me at that show. Those were shocking results to me. And then we got Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm at Double or Nothing 2023. Tony beating her quick. I know it's because of an injury, but I was still surprised. And then for year three, I went with Samoa Joe beating MJF for the AEW World Championship at World's End. So technically, having Christian beat Copeland on that same show right after Copeland won the title was a shocking match result. Oh, another one for year two. Sorry, my bad. Austin Theory failing his cash in. You gotta include that. So these are my three top ones. So at number three, I'm gonna put Joe beating MJF. I didn't expect this to happen. This shocked me, but because of MJF's injury, it did make sense. So it's a number three for me. Number two, Roman beating Cody Rhodes to me, because this was probably the hardest to predict WrestleMania Night 2 main event in history. Or one of. I wasn't alive until 2004. I wasn't a wrestling fan until 2012. So take that into consideration. For me, this was the most unpredictable main event that I've witnessed live. And then number one, Becky beating Bianca. It would have been surprising if Becky beat Bianca in that show in a normal match, but the fact she did it in seconds might not be a good decision, but it's shocking. That's what this category is. So, also, I want to touch on another thing. So, the Olympics part is ended now, and I'm not giving any of these a medal. I just want to talk about these three shows that I'm excited for. All in London, I am attending that show. Mariah May turning on Tony Storm was one of the best double crosses to me, so I am hyped for that match and many other ones like frickin' Bryan Danielson putting his career on the line. I think he's gonna lose that match. Yup. I think I'm gonna witness the last of Bryan Danielson, the legend, on that night. And another match that this is probably the one I'm third most excited for behind Mariah May. It hasn't been official, but Okada and Hangman Page. That seems like it's gonna be a match that surprises a lot of people. I'm pretty excited for that one. Mercedes Monet, hopefully Britt Baker, hopefully the ring rust hasn't gotten to her and they can put on a banger. Those are the matches I'm mostly. Oh, oh, stop me there. Will Ospreay versus MJF. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know if they're gonna try and top that match in terms of in-ring wrestling. I don't know if they're gonna have a bloodbath. MJF is doing amazing work. Ospreay went from not being undesirable to being undeniable. Bro is undeniable. Like I'm not the biggest fan of Osprey, I'll admit it, but you can't deny his in-ring work. That is gonna be one heck of a match. And then we got Bad Blood. I made a video about this. I can't wait for what they do with the women's world title. I want it to be a three-way with Io Sky, Rhea Ripley, and Liv Morgan. But at the end of that show, it's probably going to be Rhea hosting the title over Liv Morgan, getting her title back. Hell in a Cell with Punk and Drew. Oh my gosh. Cody and Randy Orton. Randy turning on Cody. And this is the thing that just came out today. Today, Paul, Triple H, Levesque, Trips, Hunter, Hurst, Helmsley, whatever you want to call him, terrorizing. He announced Survivor Series War Games in Vancouver. Uh, my family's gonna try and get tickets for that show, so I am excited for that. If my Randy Cody prediction comes to fruition, then Randy will get another shot at that show and probably take the title off Cody if it happens the way I want it to. Bloodline War Games. That could happen. That could be dang good. Maybe Io versus Rhea if what I said in that video comes to fruition. And maybe Finn Balor versus Damian if that comes to fruition. That'd be good. A lot of things could happen. I'm hyped. I just want to share that. These are my three most anticipated shows of the year. All In and Survivor Series. All In, I'm attending Survivor Series. I'm more likely, maybe attending, perhaps attending. I'm not even going to Bad Blood, but I am hyped to watch that at home because I think that show is going to be legendary. I can't wait. 3 months of amazing wrestling shows I'm hyped for. Oh my gosh. Thank you for watching. This has been Suplexis. I hope you've enjoyed the first annual TTRWS